My husband used my secret savings to buy a luxury car for his brother. I never meant to keep secrets from my husband, but I also never thought I had to announce every financial decision I made. When I started setting aside a little money, it wasn't because I was planning to leave, nor was I hiding anything out of guilt. It was simply a personal safety net, something I believed every responsible adult should have. Life is unpredictable, and I wanted us to have a cushion in case of emergencies. A home repair, unexpected medical bills, or even a future investment in something meaningful for our family. I worked hard for every penny, and watching that balance grow over the years gave me a quiet sense of security. It made me feel prepared no matter what life threw at us. Daniel and I had always been open about money. Our joint account covered the essentials: rent, groceries, utilities, and everything else that kept our household running. But this was different. This wasn't about distrust. It was about independence. I never questioned where every single dollar of his paycheck went, just like he never asked me about mine. That's how I saw it, at least. The idea that my personal savings might one day cause a problem between us never even crossed my mind. In fact, I thought if he ever found out, he'd appreciate my foresight. After all, this was for both of us, wasn't it? But then, one morning, everything changed. I logged into my account like I always did, expecting to see the balance I had worked so hard to build. Instead, I felt my heart slam against my ribs. The number staring back at me wasn't just lower than I remembered. It was zero. Every single penny I had saved was gone. First, I thought it had to be a mistake. A bank error, maybe even fraud. My hands trembled as I refreshed the page, hoping it was some kind of glitch. But the number didn't change. Zero. I clicked through my transaction history, my pulse pounding, and that's when I saw it. A single transfer had wiped out everything. My stomach twisted as I checked the details, expecting to see some unfamiliar name, some random scammer who had hacked into my account. But no. The money hadn't been taken by a stranger. It had been withdrawn by someone with full access. And only one person fit that description. Daniel, my own husband. A cold, sinking feeling spread through me as I stared at his name next to the transfer. My mind raced, desperately searching for an explanation that wasn't outright betrayal. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there had been an emergency, something urgent, something life or death. But if that were the case, why hadn't he told me? Why wasn't there a single message, a missed call, a desperate voicemail? Nothing. Just silence. I scrolled further, my breath catching in my throat. The transaction wasn't small. He hadn't just borrowed a portion of my savings. He had taken everything, every cent. I sat there, frozen, my fingers still gripping the mouse, unable to look away from the evidence in front of me. The logical part of my brain told me to stay calm, to breathe, to think this through before jumping to conclusions. But the rest of me, the part that had spent years trusting this man, loving him, building a life with him, that part was screaming. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. He had taken my money, and I needed to find out why. When I confronted Daniel that evening, I expected guilt. I expected panic, an apology, maybe even a terrible excuse. But what I got was something else entirely. He barely looked up from his phone, his expression eerily casual, as if I had just asked him what was for dinner. "Oh yeah," he said, stretching like he hadn't just committed financial betrayal. "I used it to buy Jake's car." I felt the words hit me like a slap. My brain struggled to process them. Jake's car. My entire savings for his brother. Didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. I stared at him, waiting for him to say more, to explain why he thought draining my account for his brother was even remotely acceptable. And when he did, it only got worse. Jake, his younger brother, had apparently always dreamed of owning a luxury car. It was his thing, according to Daniel. Some people travel, some people collect watches. Jake wanted a high-end car. And because Jake couldn't afford one himself, Daniel had taken it upon himself to fix that little problem. By emptying my account, without asking, without even mentioning it, as if my years of careful saving meant nothing. The worst part, he didn't even look guilty. He acted like I was the one making a big deal out of nothing. "You wouldn't have said yes if I had asked," he said with a shrug, as if that justified stealing from his own wife. My hands clenched into fists. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just irresponsibility. This wasn't just a lapse in judgment. This was betrayal, plain and simple. And I wasn't about to let it slide. I wanted to believe there was some shred of remorse in him. that maybe, deep down, he understood what he had done. But as I stood there, waiting for some kind of real explanation, all I got was excuse after excuse. "It's not like I spent it on something stupid," he said, his tone defensive, as if that somehow made it okay. "Jake needed help. And we're married, which means my money is your money, and your money is mine." My stomach churned. That wasn't how this worked. I had saved that money for us, not for his brother's vanity project. But in Daniel's mind, the fact that we were married gave him the automatic right to take whatever he wanted. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Yes." His response made my blood run cold. He laughed, a small, dismissive chuckle like I was being ridiculous. "Because I knew you'd say no," he admitted with a smirk, as if this was some kind of game. He didn't even bother pretending he thought I'd approve. He knew what he was doing was wrong, and he did it anyway. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't some innocent misunderstanding. This wasn't a difference in priorities. He had deliberately gone behind my back, taken something that wasn't his to take, and now he had the audacity to act like I was the problem for being upset about it. I felt something inside me crack. Trust, respect, whatever was left of the foundation I thought our marriage was built on. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't even trying to fix it. In his mind, I should just get over it, rebuild my savings, and pretend like it never happened. And the worst part, if I let this slide, what would stop him from doing it again? I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him see what he had done. But I knew it wouldn't matter. He didn't care. He wasn't sorry. All he cared about was justifying his actions, convincing himself that what he did was normal, that I was the one overreacting. But I wasn't. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about trust, respect, and the realization that I had married someone who had no problem betraying me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, anger and heartbreak crashing over me in waves. But more than anything, I felt something shift inside me. A cold, hard truth settling in my bones. I couldn't stay with this man. Still, I tried one last time. "Get the money back," I demanded. "Return the car. Make Jake pay for it. Do something." But Daniel just sighed like I was exhausting him, like I was the one being unreasonable. "It's already done," he said, shaking his head. "You need to let it go. Let it go. Let it go." He had wiped out years of savings. Money I had worked for, money that was supposed to be our safety net, and he expected me to just move on? I stared at him, searching his face for any sign of regret, any hint that he might actually care about what he had done. But there was nothing, just indifference. That was it. That was the moment I knew. There was no fixing this. There was no talking it out, no reasoning with him, no magical way to make him understand. He didn't respect me. He didn't value me. And if I stayed, this wouldn't be the last time he betrayed me. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clearer than it had been all night. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I wasn't going to beg. I was done. I didn't waste another second. That night, while Daniel slept soundly, completely unbothered by what he had done, I packed my bags. Every piece of clothing, every personal belonging that mattered to me, shoved into a suitcase with shaking hands. I wasn't leaving in anger. I wasn't storming out in some dramatic rage. I was leaving because I had to. Because staying with a man who saw me as his personal bank account, who could betray me so easily and feel nothing about it, was no longer an option. He had taken my money, but I refused to let him take me. When he woke up to find me standing at the door, suitcase in hand, his face twisted in shock. "You're really leaving over this?" he scoffed, like I was being ridiculous. Like I was the one ruining our marriage, not him. He started making promises, throwing out desperate half-apologies, swearing he would fix it. But I knew better. If he could do this once, he could do it again. If he really loved me, he never would have done it in the first place. Love isn't just words, it's actions. And his actions had already told me everything I needed to know. So I walked away. No more arguments, no more second chances, no more waiting for him to be the man I thought he was. The money was gone, and I had no idea what my future would look like now. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. And that was worth more than every single dollar in that account.